As I once again thank our delegates for being so very interactive on the platform. This is a reminder, we have a lot of excitement in store for all of you. All you've got to do is click pictures on the phone photo booth and post them using our hashtag ET Women in Tech. I'd also like to request all of you to please keep tweeting on our Twitter wall, which is available in the lobby area. You're welcome to join in our expo area to meet and connect with our partner booths. I'm sure they'll be more than glad to assist you with their state-of-the-art technology. Let me also take a moment and thank our partners, our presenting partner, Dell Technologies, our gold partners, Cashier Technologies, Informatica, Cloudera, Fireserve, IBM, MediaTek. Let me also thank our associate partners, Tata Teleservices and Checkpoint. Of course, the event has been brought to you by Femina and ET Edge as we look forward to yet another engaging session in conversation, opportunities for growth in a digital future. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Ms. Rekha M Menon, Chairperson and Senior Managing Director, Accenture and India. And engaging her will be our moderator, Mr. Anirban Ghoshal, Senior Editor, ET Edge.
Thank you so much, Isha, for that wonderful introduction. And what a pleasure to have none other than Ms. Menon join us for a chat where we will try and do some crystal ball gazing into a future that is looking to be all digital. Rekha, as I was preparing for this session, one of the most popular quotes from Charles Dickens came to my mind, especially given what we all as individuals and businesses have gone through since March last year. One could maybe from months in the future muse and reminiscence that it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the session of light, and it was a season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, and it was the winter of despair. We all cannot ignore what the pandemic did to us. And with that, let me ask you the first question for today's chat. The pandemic has been reshaping industries and economies. What opportunities does this create for women, at a large scale?
So first, I cannot agree with you more. This was the best of times and it was the worst of times, right? So let's focus on the best. At the very broad level, what the pandemic did, it gave us an opportunity to reset and reinvent both at the individual, at the society, at the industry, and at the economic level, right? And it's already precipitated many shifts. You yourself mentioned that adoption of digital technologies has accelerated, and it has accelerated dramatically. In fact, every business is now a digital business, right? There have been massive shifts in industry, right? Some industries have gone down, but new ones have emerged. And even every industry has seen new services and products that have got enabled, which weren't there pre-pandemic. Third, what's happened is consumer behavior has changed irreversibly. And fourth, which is, I hope, a long-term trend, that organizations are beginning to realize that it's not just your shareholders, but you need to have stakeholder value creation. And that is actually very good for your own business, right? And so therefore, responsible business is becoming a trend. And your question was, what does this present for women? It presents huge opportunities across the board, right? Women could either be key beneficiaries of these shifts, or they could be key shapers of these shifts, right? And let me say that why. One, as beneficiaries, because we all know geographies have disappeared, right? Which was a major constraint to participate in the workforce, and they can now digitally from home, from tier 2 cities, and participate in the socio-economic activities. Gig economy has received a boost. So that's one. Second, the new opportunities that have got enabled give them new avenues of growth. So basically, it's what we make of it, and it also depends a lot on how the government, the civil society, the women themselves, besides the organization, come together to make sure that there's equitable growth and equitable opportunities for women. So it's not going to happen by itself. We'll have to make a concerted effort for it.
Moving on, you mentioned some very interesting pointers during your answer. You sort of touched upon uh, the move from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. You spoke about how women can take advantage of this radical change in how we work, right? But when we started, we spoke about that the future is looking all digital, right? And technology usage, you want it or not, has increased dramatically. So, what opportunities does this create for the technology industry as a whole?
Okay. So if you see, technology was a lifeline actually that kept businesses, kept society afloat during the worst stages of the crisis, right? And it's providing huge opportunities. I mean, NASSCOM just released some numbers of the projected growth, and it's all digital, right? Even when there was a dip in the last year, uh, Indian technology industry was a net hirer of 1.38 lakh people across the industry. So overall, massive growth. What does that do for women? One, of course, uh, for women, women who are skilled already, it provides them new growth opportunities in technology, right? There's an acute talent shortage. In fact, the numbers being floated are that the need for digital talent is approximately 8 times the available talent. So that means that they can really grow their careers, take jobs of their choice, etc. Second is reskilling in new technology areas, because there's a lot of new technology that's coming in and has been used and will continue to be used. So that's the second area, if they can reskill themselves in new demand technologies. The third is really, as I talked about, the adjacent industries and new spaces, right? And they could actually, in the tech industries, use the digital economy to create those businesses or support those businesses. So I'm saying there are opportunities everywhere in all things. And then, to link back to the responsible business, if in the tech industry, they could then work on how to make businesses responsible. How are technology-led interventions used in a responsible way? So that's another area. So massive opportunities for men. Yet at the same time, we have to be careful, because even as there are these massive opportunities, the pandemic has also has been a double-edged sword, right? So for women, for example, while it has allowed them to work from home, it has also put the primary burden of taking care of home while you're working on the women, right? And that is putting a very double burden on women. They're working from home and they're working at home, both together, 2 jobs at the same time. So that's the flip side of it that has happened.
Very interesting observation there, Rekha. But you yourself have been, you yourself had such an illustrious career. You are a woman leader at the top, no doubts. And as you said that, compared to 25 years back, 30 years back, the tech industry has been a large employer for women, right? But yet we see very few people like you at the top. Why is that, and how come we can change this around, we can turn this? Because obviously we've seen that women at the workplace contribute to larger productivity, growth, and in fact more innovation.
So let me take your last bit first. You're right, actually, because equality actually shows, it creates more innovation because you have diverse opinions, right? It also provides for growth for the organization. So it makes business sense for them to hire more women. And you're right, IT industry has been well ahead of other industries and has a better representation of women than ever before. But yet the numbers shrink. As soon as you get to manager level, it goes to about a quarter. And then when you get to the C-suite positions, it's, a handful. It's about less than 1%. You're absolutely right. And what's also paradoxical is that India is the top of the world in producing female graduates in STEM, right? Yet employment of women in STEM jobs we rank about 19th in the world, right? So there's a huge gap there. And the reasons are many, but if I focused on 2, one is the socio-economic, social cultural expectations, right? that create boundaries around women's growth, and create boundaries around women's growth, not for women themselves, I mean, by society itself, but also by the women, because they're culturalized into that expectation, right? That there's a division of roles between men and women. I spoke to the fact that even women during the pandemic are shouldering an extra burden, right? Because there's the expectation that the women are the primary caregivers, whether of elders or of children, right? And that is a reason, either because society pressures them or women themselves buy into that narrative and they drop out at mid-career levels, or they do part-time, or there isn't enough support system around for them to enable them to continue their jobs. So that is one of the reasons. And the second reason really is organizations themselves. One, there may be conscious or unconscious biases that don't allow them to harness the true potential of women. And second, organizations themselves sometimes don't take a very intentional view, intentional approach to making everything gender equal, making their organizations gender equal. So for example, at Accenture, we took a stand that we'll be gender neutral by 2025, or globally we'll be gender neutral by 2025. One, leadership commitment. Second, that meant that all of us at every level, all leaders were held accountable for making that happen. And third, that meant that everything was measured. And you had to therefore create enabling policies in place, not just hire women, but create enabling policies in place, ensure that women themselves were thinking of larger roles and for growth, providing training for women, etc. So as a result, right now in India, we are over 40% women. So we will meet our numbers, no doubt. Our CEO is a woman. 42% of our board is women. I head Accenture in India as a woman. So all I'm trying to say is that it has to be intentional. It's like any other business goal. And if that happens, then there's no reason why there should be a gap.
I think, as you said, lead by example. I think that's the key message coming from your answer. The pandemic, obviously, as you said, during the first question, that the pandemic has obviously accelerated certain portions or certain types of technologies. Which technology or certain sectors rather, which technology areas do you believe had shown the most potential? And the second part of this question is, how should women sort of prepare for these jobs, in the upcoming digital economy?
So, as I've said before, it does present a massive opportunity for women, right? The talent gap that I talked about, the ATEX talent gap. And if you see, there are current technologies, but there's a lot of emerging technologies and application areas in the digital economy, which are at different stages of their maturity, right? Whether it's AI, cloud, cybersecurity, robotic process automation. And in the near term, these are the ones that have big demand, and the demand is very high for qualified professionals. So one option is women who are already in technology upskill themselves into these areas. That's option one. Option two is women who are not skilled in technology reskill themselves to get technology enabled, because as I said, every organization is a digital organization. So there's demand across, not just in the tech sector, right? Third, there's opportunities in tech industry which are outside of pure technology skills, right? Because we're not looking for just pure tech talent. There's human skills. You need people with critical reasoning, with empathy, with judgment. There's opportunity for industry domain knowledge, right? So people with industry skills can come in. You're looking for people with design backgrounds, people who can create user experiences. So that's the other one. So women need to actually, more than anything else, look, be aware, learn, and look at all the opportunities which are available in the areas. And I spoke, and I want to go back to that it's not always about getting a job. There's huge opportunities for building a business. We're the third largest tech startup capital in the world, right? So there's huge opportunity there for women to look at what needs are not being met and where could they start or build a business either to serve the digital economy or use digital to serve other sectors of society which are not being served. I mean, just in India, the opportunities for healthcare, for democratizing education, etc., are huge. And the only way that need is going to be met is through technology, right? So can we have some business ideas that meet those huge needs in India? So opportunities are big across, and I'm very, very gung-ho about that.
A lot of people, a lot of women, in fact, are hearing you speak today, and it's a source of inspiration for them. What practical advice would you want to give to women who want to build long-term careers, in the tech industry, or as you mentioned that, it's not just the tech industry, but people can actually look at entrepreneurship. So how do you, three or four quick mantras of success, if you call them that, that you want.
Okay, so I would say a couple. One, be a constant learner. Learn new technologies, new trends, learn about adjacent spaces. Be a learner in every sphere of your life, right? So only when you keep reinventing yourself are you going to grow, right? I'm still constantly learning. I take any new technology and learn about it, right? Or new trends in industry and learn about it. Second, be very intentional about your career, right? Build a plan, and every plan will be different because each of us have different lives and different personal milestones, right? So, but have a plan in mind. But at the same time, be very comfortable for change, right? Because change is going to happen. Stay agile. Opportunities will show up, right? Third would be step out of your comfort zone. Always experiment, take challenging assignments, and therefore be ready to fail because it will happen. That if you're going to step out of your comfort zone and take new risks, while successes will happen, but failures will also happen. But that's okay because you can view it as a learning experience, right? And if you haven't failed at anything, I'm not sure that you've learned too much, right? Next would be negotiate your spaces, both at work and at home. Negotiate for yourself, and it's okay to negotiate for yourself. If you need things to meet your career ambition or to meet your goals, you need a support structure around it. And that means asking for help and negotiating. And there's no harm in asking for help or negotiating because, as I'd said before, equality isn't built by one individual. Equality has to come from all spaces coming together and building a culture of equality, right? And for that, sometimes an organization will do it. Sometimes at home, it'll happen. But a lot of times it won't. Raise your hand and negotiate for it. Call it out, right? And the last would be for the women listening in or watching is pull up as you rise. Make sure that you make a difference in one other woman's life, whoever it may be, right? Within your sphere, outside your sphere, at your home, because that's the only way we're going to build this whole culture of equality everywhere.
I think those are some wonderful key messages that you had. I think they're very important that, one should try and help other women, as you said, pull other people up, and also negotiating for spaces. I think something really that Indian women ought to do more because, typically or fortunately or unfortunately, we are in that stigmatized setup still, right? And I think the other message was loud and clear that do not be scared to spread your wings. Thank you so much, Rekha, for the wonderful, insightful conversation.
Thank you, Anirban. Thank you for a lovely conversation. Thank you.